we were taught this mentality, right? This mind over matter, this you can achieve anything you put your mind to if only you work hard enough, if only you can be smart enough, right? And there's obviously truths to it, right? There are truths to it because all these different ways we've been taught to move through the world, calling upon the power of our oh so special human minds, it enables us to achieve in this truly incredible way. And I don't want to diminish that. What I do want to speak to, what I think is more important than anything else to be saying right now, has to do with the consequences. The consequences of living life with this mind over matter perspective. I was inspired to hop on here and start shooting today as I'm out on the trails. Again, this is day 2, and I am in this absolutely spectacular place. One of my favorite places on the planet. And it's beautiful, and there's no one out here. So I thought it was a good time to hop on here. I've taken a break for several weeks uploading videos, and I wanted to give a few words to why that is. You know, there's this theme alive in our world that if you want something, you have to show up and be consistent day in, day out, and keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And what I found is that when you do that, sometimes we get the outcome we want, but not always. And what does almost always happen, don't mind me here as I cross this little stream, what does pretty much always happen when we do this pushing sort of approach to making things happen so that we can get what we want. Well, what always happens is that we get hurt. So I'm on this trail that I've been on 2 or 3 times before, and it's just spectacular. I'm here in a field of wildflowers. I'm surrounded by a couple of my favorite peaks. Haven't climbed either of them yet. Maybe will one day. They're lesser climbed peaks, and the trails aren't as established, which makes for a fun adventure, but also makes for a really scary adventure. So we'll see. For now, I'm an admirer from afar. But I wanted to speak to this trail because there's this story from this trail, this coming down, heading in the other direction, was the last 10 to 15 miles of the first 100K I ran. So I'm coming down this slope here behind me, and it's beautiful, and the sun is setting, and I'm still feeling pretty good. I know there's about 10 miles to go. What I don't realize is those last 10 miles go straight up and over this ridgeline behind me. The sun was setting and it was getting cold. And what happened is that my hip flexor is completely seized up on me. So I still had miles to go, thousands of feet to climb and descend to get back down into town to the finish line. And so here I'm facing this choice, right? Like, things are starting to break down. I'm starting to notice how much pain I am, really picking up on those cues from my body, like it's time to stop. But I've already ran 50 miles. I've been training for this race for years now. And there's only 10 miles to go. So I have to make a choice. Is this goal that I've set for myself, finishing this 100K, worth it? And to me, it wasn't even a choice, like no decision to make. I was in it. I had poured heart and soul, so much work into this goal. So when it came time to push, it was like, I have to give everything I have. And I did. Went up and over this pass, climbed thousands and thousands of feet, and it hurt. It was excruciating, and every single step felt like the most effort I'd ever put out of my life as I willed my leg to lift up, to take one more step. And I did that for many, many miles, straight up this mountain to this ridgeline, back down the other side, and across the finish line, at which point I stopped moving. My hip flexor completely seized up, and I was entirely unable to walk back to the car. So there's a reason I share that story. One, because it's always fun to tell ultra running stories. More importantly, to shed more light on this point I'm trying to make, that when we make a decision to go beyond a reasonable effort for our bodies, there's always a consequence. Messing up my hip flexor that day, it's something that I will continue to try to heal from, but something that I now have to work with. Anytime I exercise or try to take on another ultra running event, and it's one of those decisions I get to reflect on, like, was it worth it? And to me, again, this goal was so important. It's like, yeah, it was totally worth it. It didn't completely take away my ability to run or hike or enjoy the mountains. I was successful. It felt amazing. But this is where this is going, is it reasonable to live life where we're routinely making decisions to compromise ourselves when we start noticing, right? When we start getting those little pings like, hey, you're starting to push. You're starting to push a little too far. And maybe it's just that you're pushing too hard with this one thing, or maybe it's that there's other stuff in life that's been getting too stressful, and now this thing that you were doing that you were able to manage, well, maybe you're not able to manage it anymore. So that's what happened. I started this YouTube channel, and I was having so much fun being consistent and showing up, creating videos, and I was having so much fun getting into this rhythm, and then life started to get in the way. And I started doing that thing that I was taught to do, that was to push through it, right? I told myself I was going to put out 2 YouTube videos a week.